You can probably hear me without the mic, I would think, but sometimes this works better. We're going to have a few people that are coming in a little later, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started because we want to wrap up by 11:45 because most of us, or some of us, are going to Gordon Bier's Chapter. We've been sponsored for a nice little appetizer, get-together, meet-up, and also to kick off our in-person meetings. So, like I said, there's a few other people that couldn't make it, that RSVP'd, so we'll just see how it goes. You good, Les? Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Prison Families Alliance meeting, and this one's going to be a little different because we want to kick off in-person meetings here in Las Vegas. So what I'm going to do today is talk a little bit about prison, what's going on in the system, what Prison Families Alliance does, and what we're looking forward to doing. And then at the end, we're going to have some of our partner organizations come up and speak so we could learn about the other organizations that are here. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming. My name is Julia Lazarek, and I'm the president of Prison Families Alliance. And I just want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about why I'm here. In the 90s, I lived in Florida, and it was 97, and I bought my first house. So for those of you that own a house, do you remember your first house? Or for those of you who don't have your first house yet, can you imagine what it feels like to have your first house? I mean, life was wonderful. I had my first house, I had a great job, I had a great boyfriend, I had great friends, and I was living the life. In fact, right across the street from me was a pool, so I didn't have to go very far to go swimming. And my brother was my roommate. And then one day he came home and told me that he'd been accused of a sexual encounter with a minor. And that day, our life changed. So can you imagine that day? Everything's going along fine, and then something happens, whether it be incarceration or something else. Can you imagine that day that changes your life? Well, that was the day that changed my life. And we went through the arrest, we went through the incarceration, and my brother was given a life sentence. And he did serve his life sentence because he passed away in prison.
New messages received from Martin Teixeira HOI. Messages missing you at church today. Blessings.
And we've been blessed.
Sorry, I'll turn the ringer off.
No, we've all been blessed, so that's wonderful. And after I had time to reflect on it, after he passed, I realized that I was living a hidden sentence, that I had been serving the sentence with him, and I vowed at that time that nobody would have to go through it alone like I did, that nobody would have to live in fear and shame and be able to have a voice. And that's why I'm committed to Prison Families Alliance, and that's why I'm here today, and that's why I continue with it, and that's why we're here talking about it today. And I'm a little tired today. We just got a new puppy. Her name is Sierra, and we got her on Sunday, so I haven't slept much. So if my voice is a little hoarse and I'm a little tired, that's why. And that's our dog, our older dog, Sage, next to her. We're bringing Sierra home, and Sage is in the car like, oh no, another dog. But for those of you that have dogs, and I know there's a few animal lovers here, we're just so excited that we have a dog. But we're here today to talk about prison, to talk about the prison family. And what I want to bring out is that 1 in 10 people are more or likely to be struck by lightning. 1 in 10. But 1 in 3 people have been incarcerated. So look at the odds. The odds of you being incarcerated is more than being struck by lightning. Isn't that crazy? And incarceration just doesn't affect the person that's going into the system. It affects the whole family. So the thing that I want to bring out here is that prison can happen to anybody. And even though we know that there's things in the prison system that need to be addressed, we're focusing on the prison family here. This is my brother that was incarcerated for 15 years before he passed. And during that time, for those of you that have had somebody that's incarcerated, know how hard it is. And for those of you that haven't, it changes your life. It's a financial and an emotional burden. For years, I visited him by myself. And then I met my husband, who's in the back there, and he came with me, and that made life a little easier. So it is easier to have somebody. But during those years, I lived in shame. There was so much guilt, and like, woulda, coulda, shoulda, what could I have done? And you have to have forgiveness. You have to work through it. So there's so many things that Prison Families Alliance helps the families with, and then we're going to talk about it. But I just wanted to show you that it's for real. That changed my life, and that's why I'm here today. So let's talk about some prison statistics. There's about 7 million people in the prison system. So those are people that are in federal and state prisons, people in jails, and people on parole and probation. Even though the United States has only 5% of the world population, we have about 20% of the incarcerated population. Isn't that crazy? And about half of the population has somebody that's been incarcerated. So when I look here, and the odds might be a little higher here, but most audiences that I speak to, half the people there have been affected, and they don't talk about it. And we need to remove the stigma so that we can talk about it. And there's more than 650,000 people that are going to be coming home every year, and that's only from state and federal prisons. That's not even counting jails. And even though we're focusing on the family, we need to acknowledge that, because people that are coming out of prison, if they don't have family and community support, they're more likely to go back into prison. So the better we can support the family, the better we can support our loved ones that are incarcerated or for when they come home. And then what about the children? There's about 3 million children who have an incarcerated parent, and about 10 million children who have or had an incarcerated parent. And get this, over half of them are under 10 years old. So we found that children who have an incarcerated parent are more likely to get into the system themselves. And that's why it's so important that we not only support the families, but we support the children too. And so that's where we come in. So let's talk about Prison Families Alliance. We're here to support the family. It's all about the family. Our mission is to transform communities, and when we say transform, it's not just to tell communities out there what's happening to the families. We want to transform them through support, through education and advocacy about how they can support the families so that they can live healthy lives. And our goal today is to talk about having meetings here. So let's talk about what PFA is doing. But our goal here and our meet and greet after for people that are coming is we want to talk about when we're going to have those meetings, who's going to come, what days we have them, and what it's going to look like. Because before the pandemic, PFA was meeting in person, but after the pandemic, we went online, and we have over 10 virtual support meetings a month. Over 10. We have 11 facilitators. I mean, it's just grown. We'll talk about that. We also have a website. We have social media. We also give referrals. We have some organizations here that we'll be working with. So if people come to us that need those special needs, that we can refer them to those groups, because we're not counselors and we're not lawyers. So we need to be able to provide that information. And during the pandemic, we supported over 300 families. And that's really just a drop in the bucket. So let's talk about kind of some of the support that we have. We have a children's support group. Because remember, the children are affected. The children need to know that it's not their fault. They need to be able to set boundaries. They need to be able to be empowered so that they can lead good lives and not judge, not burden themselves with this because they're children. So we have a facilitator once a month that we bring children from all over the United States. They come on once a month and then they talk about setting boundaries, and it's a safe place for the children to come together. There's loved ones that are incarcerated with mental illness. So when they're on the outside, we can support them, but when they're inside, they can't. So in this group, people can come together and talk about ways that they can advocate for their loved one that's incarcerated with mental illness. What if they're not getting their meds? What if they have an episode? They're put in solitary. That doesn't help them. So we need to come together to see what we can do to support our loved ones that are incarcerated with mental illness. And we just started a group last night for spouses and partners. And let me tell you, I got to attend that group, and there was about a dozen women there. Men are welcome, but last night it was women. And they were so grateful because they said there's things that happens that they need to talk about to other people when their loved one. It could be the breadwinner, it's their lover, it's the person that they spent their whole life with that is now gone. Who do they talk to? They can come to the support group meeting and talk to other people on ways that they can lead healthy lives and take care of themselves. And this is the big secret. But it's so prevalent, and people don't talk about it. When somebody's arrested, incarcerated, accused for a sex crime, what does that do to the family? Just think of anybody that you know. Think of on the news when you hear about it. Well, the family goes to prison with their loved one. The shame, the guilt. So in this group, we actually have it twice a month now because there's so many people, and they come to the group and they say, we do not have anybody else to talk to. So these meetings are so, so important. And if I had more time, I'd tell you some stories, but I think you could just imagine whatever's going on in your life that you can't talk about, to be able to come to a safe, supportive, compassionate meeting where you can talk to people and share information and get information. And we say that reentry starts at day one because the family needs to prepare for their loved one to come home, whether it's a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. You still have that family unit. You still have that person that's incarcerated that you have that love for. When my brother was incarcerated, how do I say this? I still loved him. I didn't agree with what happened, and I'll never know if it happened because he passed and he denied it until the day he died. I don't know. I'll never know, but I still love my brother, no matter what happened. And this is not in any way to take anything away from the victims that are out there. This is not about the victims. We know that there's victims out there and they need to be advocated for, and we're not condoning what anybody has done. We're just saying that we need to humanize who's incarcerated and take care of the families on the outside. So for reentry, we have a meeting where people can talk about how do you prepare, because this person's been institutionalized. It's not the same person, and life is not going to be the same when they come home. Right, Bill?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we can prepare the families and talk with the families so that they can be ready for when their loved one comes home. And we do, just talking about PFA, we want to support the families during the holidays. So we're hoping to do something in person again. This is a picture of a holiday party we did before the pandemic, and we did it for, we had parties for, I think, 17 years. I mean, until the pandemic. The last couple of years, we've brought meals to people, we've given gift certificates. So this year, we're going to try to do something here locally, but for all of our families across the United States, we're going to be doing fundraising for gift certificates so that we can provide meals and toys for the kids. And we also raise awareness by talking at events. We did an event at the library, we did an event at UNLV. I've got a contact here for UNLV, so I'm really excited to start getting students involved, having speakers out here for our quarterly library meetings, and also supporting the students. There's actually a program at UNLV for students that have a record, because they get their degree and then they have this felony on the record. They have to check the box, right, wherever there's a box. So UNLV's doing great things. And we also provide email and phone support. We talk to people. We have volunteers. We have somebody answering the phone. So if you know somebody that is affected, that has a loved one that's incarcerated and needs somebody to talk to, they can call. The brochures are in the back with the phone number as well as our email. And we do respond to every email we get. So what are our goals? Really quickly, besides having in-person meetings here, we want to support another 200 families. We want to support, by the end of the year, 500 families. Again, that's just a drop in the bucket. We also want to work with the children. We have one meeting a month. We want to be able to have a camp. We want to be able to have workshops and do things for the kids. And big hairy goal, we haven't, it's just a thought right now, a goal, but we would love to have a Mommy's Day at Florence McClure to bring the kids to see their mommies. Expand eventually, but right now, I don't know if there's anything like that here in Nevada. They do it in other states. And it's so important to keep the family together. We want to help the families with visitation. I mean, the prisons are so far away. I drove out to High Desert. It was an hour drive. And what about people who don't have that? And what about people who have loved ones that are up north in Carson City? And this is just locally. What about people that have to travel far? We work with the Prison Visitation Fund to help people with airfare and hotel that need to travel far to see their loved one. So we are working with them. We want to provide affordable workshops for the families because sometimes you need more than just the meetings that we're doing. And we want to deliver a robust family reentry program. We have the meeting, but we really want to work with, what I'd really like to see is a wraparound program. So people that are working with loved ones that are incarcerated and us working with the family, a wraparound for the whole family, so they're going through the program together, so when the loved one comes home, the family and the loved one are prepared. So that's a personal goal that I would like to see. We want to expand our intern program. We have 2 interns, none at UNLV right now, but that would be really cool to get somebody local. We want to increase our volunteers, especially here locally, so we could do more. We do events with Metro. We are able to go up to NDOC and bring our flyers out there. So we're working on ways to grow the local community here because it's so important. And of course, we want to find permanent meeting and office space. So those are some of our goals, and collaborating with some of the organizations that you'll be hearing about today when I'm done, which will just be another minute. So connect with us. If you have any questions, call us. I'm here. Come to Gordon Bierschafter, because that would be really cool to do a meet and greet. I know everybody can't make it, but whoever can, come on over. There's going to be food, and it's sponsored by the LV Las Vegas Criminal Group. And then we'll do it again. We'll do another meet and greet. We'll get our organizations together, we'll talk, and we'll do another meet and greet and get everybody together, because we got to grow the community, not only grow it, but bring it together so we have one voice so that we can make change. So grab in the back, I think everybody signed in, grab a brochure, grab my card, be in touch with me. And I have this quote, you might have heard something like it before, but this is something that I say, because I just think it's so important, because when my brother went to prison, I was floored. I mean, it changed my life. I've never been the same, and all I want to do is make sure that nobody goes through what I went through, that everybody has the information that they need, and that's what PFA is about. So it's just really important to be present. Be present. Enjoy your time with friends and family, because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. You don't know what's going to happen. So just stay safe. And I just want to thank everybody for listening to me and for learning about PFA, learning about the prison system, learning about what's happening in the United States. So even if you don't have anybody that's incarcerated, that you're aware of it and you can share it with other people. When you meet somebody, that you don't have that judgment, that you don't put the stigma on somebody, and that you're open, that it's the family. It's not the person that's incarcerated. And I just want to thank you all. And what I'm going to do is the next 15 minutes, we've got a few groups here who wanted to talk about what they're doing. So I have one more minute. I'm just going to say, does anybody have any questions about anything that I said? Because I'm not good, right? Okay, so we'll be talking about, I think people signed up in the back for anybody that wants to be more involved, to volunteer. And then Ashley and Ashley's in the back with her beautiful baby. We'll be working on having in-person meetings here. So we'll be sharing information with the whole group on that. So I'm going to turn it over to, is it Brandon, are you going to talk, or both of you? Dylan's going to talk? All right, so Dylan from Solutions of Change, and when you're done, we'll pass it on to the next one.
Hi, I'm Dylan from Solutions of Change. I'm here with Brandon. We are the community support specialists. So we work for Solutions of Change, which is a nonprofit that offers behavioral health. It's a behavioral health organization. We offer free counseling and therapy to anyone underinsured, uninsured, or undocumented. We have different programs and classes throughout the months, one of which is Thriving Families, which is to bring together families and try to talk about things like boundaries, sexual education, things that people can struggle sometimes discussing with families at home. And then we also offer monthly health moments, which is putting together different ways that things like anxiety, stress, stigmas can help hurt your day-to-day lifestyle, and how discussing them and understanding how they work better understands your own life and helps you understand how you can go about your day in a better manner. And that would be what we are doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Dylan. I mean, that's so important. So this is for underprivileged people, underserved
Yeah.
people. I said the wrong word. Underserved people, because we want to keep everybody healthy. So what a great organization. I met the founders at an event, and we spoke, and we're just so excited that now we can refer people to organizations like that. And that's what it's all about, us talking to other organizations, so that when people come to us, that we don't have the resources, that we can refer them and we can work with other organizations. So Wes, do you want to say something about Celia? Thank you so much. And then, well, you know what? You're taller, so you're going to need more.
Circle around. Thank you.
We have fun here too.
That's
It's
good
to
to hear.
laugh. It's
Thank
okay.
you so much. I'm sorry, I didn't have anything planned. I might have worn pants if I knew I was going to be speaking. But I'm Wes Yule. I'm the Director of Communications and Campaigns for the ACLU of Nevada, and I'm just super happy to be here and be able to connect with you all. We work really hard to have close relationships to the community groups, especially, the ones that are working with such an undeserved and often ignored population. I'm sure it's no secret to any of you that there's so many problems with human rights issues in our prison system, and they just don't get heard in public without advocates like you fighting for your loved ones. So I'm just super happy to meet you. I'll say a couple things about some things we're working on. Julia, when you were talking about the financial cost, that's so real. The ACLU of Nevada was extensively involved in 2021. We had to lobby the legislature to get the Department of Corrections to stop garnishing additions into inmate accounts at 80%. So we're going to be continuing that work going into the next legislative session. We're trying to cap charges for commissary. We're also looking at pursuing a bill to guarantee dignity for incarcerated women. Women are the fastest growing incarcerated population in Nevada, so we want to do things like make sure mothers who give birth get time with their baby, make sure women have access to menstrual products, a whole array of just scary, scary stories. I'm sure you've heard them all that we're trying to help with. On the legal front, we just recently sued the Department of Corrections and the state to ensure that women who are incarcerated at Florence McClure are protected from sexual assault. I'm sure you guys all heard that story, and it was shocking, yet still not surprising that the Department of Corrections doesn't even have basic policies like male staff members can't be unsupervised alone with women prisoners. Really just basic things the department isn't doing. So we had to jump in there. We're also looking into on the legal end things like worker safety for prisoners who are drafted to fight wildland fires, all kinds of things. So I think the more, your group can talk to my group. I'd love to have you come back and speak, or not you come back, I'd love to bring my legal director in to meet you all sometimes. I know he's always thinking about new ways we can hold the Department of Corrections accountable, and I feel like there's something else, but I'm just happy to meet you. Hello.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just so excited to have a connection with ACLU because they do so much for our community.
Oh, I remembered what it was.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So we also have a quarterly meeting with Director Daniels and sort of like the top brass at NDOC. And we really need to hear from you all what's actually going on in the prison so we can sort of say, hey, what the heck is up? But also we would love to be able to bring you to that table as well. So you can advocate for yourself.
I'm there.
So let's keep in touch.
Oh, we will for sure. So thank you, Es. And then Ed, do you want to talk?
Sure.
And I think he'll be our last speaker.
Thank you, Julia. And hello, Les. So I'm with a company called Novum U, which is actually a school that does three things. We help people who are in prison. Good to see you again. People who are in prison, we help people get out of prison, and we help people stay out of prison. We help about 500 people per year. We're in many states. Unfortunately, I came down from Amargosa Valley, which is where we have our newest facility, and didn't bring any books or magazines.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
So we publish a magazine or a book that goes into the prisons every month. In Nevada, we have 300 people in our correspondence course, so that's the before you get out, to prepare people. We did a pilot in Wisconsin where they have tablets. We don't have tablets here. To communicate out, you have to do it the old-fashioned way. But in Wisconsin, they have tablets, so we have 400 people in our correspondence course there. When people get out of prison, we are unique in that we provide all of the services that people need. And we're very supportive of Julie's idea about having the family involved. Because mainly our people are people who don't have family, but it's really important. So we provide housing, clothing, food, hygiene, transportation, help getting ID, which is a problem. People are getting out of prison without ID. California, where I'm from, they don't let you out without ID. Here, they won't give you ID. You can't get a job. Legally, you cannot be employed without ID. So we help them get their ID, job skills training, and foundational employment with employers who care more about a person's future than their past. And our foundational employment does, so we have these certain employers. One is a union sheet metal shop called Naylor. We work with 7-Eleven. We work with a company called Get Fresh and GT Ventures. Only about 5 companies, but they're committed to helping people move forward. The first reason we give people foundational employment with an employer we want is it closes the work history gap in their resume. We hopefully have a guy coming out of prison in January who has been in prison for over 40 years. Went in when he was 17. He's now eligible for parole, murder. And I spoke to him this morning and he said, I'm scared to death about getting out.
Yeah.
His mother's alive and she talks to him all the time. She's in Idaho. He's at Lovelock. But can you imagine going to prison before there were not CDs, 8-track tapes?
Yeah.
Before cell phones, before cable TV. And I asked him today, I said, Lloyd, do you have a TV? He said, yeah. And I said, okay, well, good, because it's not like you've been in a coma for 40 years and you're gonna wake up when you get out and be, this time gap of how things have changed in 40 years. So, we've had 23 apartments down here in Las Vegas that we put people to, and there's just too many problems with that. So we have now, for the first 90 days of people getting out of prison, we believe in a decompression period. And so we have a room, a motel, it used to be a motel in Pahrump, it's called Camp Rain Man. It was in the movie Rain Man, if anybody remembers that movie with Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. And we just bought a place in Amargosa, 8 acres that has an oasis on it, and it's the perfect place to decompress. One thing we're seriously lacking is mental health support. We get people Medicaid, and the good news is in Nye County, it's straight Medicaid. They don't have Anthem, they don't have those, it's straight Medicaid. But it takes a while, and what we really need to do is when people get out of prison, the day they get out, the day we pick them up at P&P, we need to have a courtesy consult with the therapist. Just so the guy feels like, hey, I've got somebody I can call, somebody to help me. Can you guys do that?
So.
Success, all right,
yes,
good.
definitely.
Commitment.
Yeah, we definitely try to
Okay,
do
good,
that.
all right. Thank you, Julie. And then for the ACLU, we got a big problem.
Yeah, yeah. So
Of-
we
have you-
a sister
are you-
company that
Are
they
you
take-
familiar with AB 236?
Yes.
Okay, so the parole and probation does not want to follow the law as usual. They want to have their procedures. AB 236 is a leveling the playing field for parolees, that they can't just get their parole violated and brought back without due course, hearing. And AB 236 says you can only violate your parole if you abscond or don't notify the, you don't register at the police station within 48 hours. The parole officers and anything else is a technical violation, meaning they can write you up and there can be sanctions. Parole officers are threatening people, if you don't do what I tell you in violation of AB 236, I will violate your parole. Then what happens is the guy's afraid of what? The parole officer violating his parole, so he does what the parole officer says, and then the parole officer says, I didn't make him do it, he volunteered. There was no coercion. And so you have people, we have a guy in particular, Friday he was called by his parole officer telling him he had to move by Monday. He has anxiety. There's no way a guy just out of prison is going to be able to find an apartment by Monday. We got him a job at 7-Eleven. He's going to lose his job because a condition of employment is you have to have stable housing. So a parole officer, a new parole officer, somebody he's never met, calls him on the phone on a Friday, her day off, and says, you need to move by Monday. And he said, I can't move. Well, you need to move. He could say, you can't make me move, AB 236. I have registered and I got permission from my previous parole officer to be here. He called us, we called the parole officer. She doesn't work on Friday. Asked for the sergeant. Voicemail. The guy is very worried about what happens Monday. We said, don't worry about it. We're going to see the ACLU on Monday. But guess what? They're here today. So, so this is a big problem. AB 236 was enacted in law a few years ago because parole officers had too much power. They don't want to follow the law, and the way they get around it is they say to people, there's the easy way and the hard way. And I know my time is up.
Yeah, I
The
can
easy
tell
way
you're
and the hard way.
passionate about that. But
There's the-
Novum U, Thriving Warrior, great magazine, helping a lot of people, and just doing
I'll
good
see
work.
whoever's there at Gordon Biersch.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll
thank
talk
you.
more. I can tell you're so passionate about that, and I just thank you all for coming. And Ashley, are you going to Gordon Biersch? Good. We can talk there. I know everybody's not going to make it if you aren't, but Les went over to get everything set up. We're going to be. There's just going to be an area where we can stand. We're going to get a room, but then we have to all sit at a table, and I want to be able to stand up and walk around. So there's going to be some appetizers and stuff, and iced tea and water. So just head over there. It's on Paradise. It's just right around the corner, and I'm going to clean up, and I'll see you guys over there, and just look for Les. So thank you all.
Can I help with anything?
Nope, nope, Ruby just asked me, I have a,
Okay.